You know, in the world of high-volume billing, where you've got millions of transactions for subscriptions and usage-based services flying around every single day, data has to flow perfectly. It has to get from the charging engine to the invoicing system without a single hiccup. But how does that actually happen? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the critical yet often unseen link that makes it all possible: Billable Item Mapping, or as we'll call it, BIM.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about the two main systems involved. Then, we'll look at the language barrier that exists between them. After that, we'll meet our hero, the universal translator that solves the problem. We'll see how that translation actually happens in real time. And finally, we'll wrap up by talking about why this technical bridge is so incredibly important for modern business. All right, so to get started, let's set the stage. We're telling a story that takes place in two different but very connected locations within the SAP world: Convergent Charging and Convergent Invoicing. First up, we have SAP Convergent Charging, or CC. The easiest way to think about this system is as the rating engine. Its whole job is to take some kind of business transaction, maybe it's your data usage, a one-time setup fee, or a monthly subscription, and figure out the price. It's a powerhouse system built specifically to rate, charge, and create these little priced transactions. And where does all that price data need to go? Well, its destination is SAP Convergent Invoicing, or CI. Its job is to take all that information, gather it all up, create the final bill, and manage the whole invoicing process for the customer. It's the central hub where all these individual charges come together to become one single, easy-to-understand invoice. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Even though these two systems are designed to work together perfectly, they have very specific roles. Convergent Charging, on the one hand, rates all these transactions and creates something called a charged item. But Convergent Invoicing, on the other hand, needs a totally different input to do its job. It's waiting for something called a billable item. And guess what? They aren't exactly the same thing. And that brings us right to the core of our problem, what I like to call the language barrier. It's like these two systems are speaking slightly different dialects of the same language, and we need a way to translate between them flawlessly. So let's get our terms straight. A charged item is the final product that comes out of Convergent Charging. You can think of it as a little data packet that represents a business transaction after it's been fully priced. This is the information that needs to get sent over for billing. And on the other side of the fence, you have the billable item. This is what Convergent Invoicing is waiting for. It's the very specific data structure, the raw material, if you will, that it needs to actually build the final customer invoice. So you can see the dilemma, right? This brings us to the most important question of all. How do we get from one to the other? How do we take the output of the charging engine and perfectly convert it into the required input for the invoicing hub without losing a single piece of information? And this is where the hero of our story makes its entrance. This is where Billable Item Mapping, or BIM, comes into play. It is the essential universal translator that bridges this gap and makes the whole end-to-end process work like a charm. So what is it really? At its heart, Billable Item Mapping is a piece of configuration inside Convergent Charging. Just think of it like a rulebook or a map. It tells the system exactly how to take the fields from the charged item and map them perfectly to the fields that the billable item needs. It's our universal data translator. Now, don't get too caught up in the details on this screen. The key idea here is that, sure, you could define the charging system's data structure manually if you were using it all by itself, but when it's connected to Convergent Invoicing in an integrated system, using Billable Item Mapping is the standard. Frankly, it's the only way to make sure these two systems stay perfectly in sync. And here's the really clever part. This is the aha moment. When you actually create the mapping between the two systems, Convergent Charging is smart enough to automatically generate its own data structure in the background to match. So you're not just drawing a map, you're literally building both sides of the bridge at the same time, guaranteeing that the data formats are perfectly aligned right from the very beginning. Okay, so we've got our map, we've got our bridge. But how does the data, the traffic, actually make the journey? Let's take a look at the translation process when the system is actually up and running. So when the system is live and transactions are flowing, a special, dedicated process called the bulk loader takes over. Think of it as a super efficient data courier. It uses that billable item mapping we defined to convert all the charged items into billable items in bulk. Then, it loads these newly translated items directly into the Convergent Invoicing system, ready for the next step. And this little flowchart shows us the final destination. Once our billable items have made the trip and arrived safely in Convergent Invoicing, they enter the last stage of their journey. This is where they get processed, grouped together for billing, checked for any errors, and finally transformed into the billing documents that end up as the customer's invoice.
So we've been deep in the technical details, but let's zoom out for a second. Why is getting this technical bridge right so incredibly important for the business? What's the real impact? Well, first, it is absolutely critical to understand what BIM is and what it isn't. This isn't just another piece of master data, like a customer record, and it's not part of your pricing catalog. No, billable item mapping is fundamental business configuration. It's the core plumbing that defines how your entire revenue process works from end to end.
And the value you get from this seamless integration is immense. This automated bridge is what allows businesses to handle millions, even billions of transactions without any manual work. It's the technical backbone for today's most innovative business models. Think about IoT devices billing by the second, or streaming services that charge for data consumed. It ensures your data is perfectly consistent from the moment it's priced to the moment it's invoiced, which drastically reduces errors and cuts down on costs. So let's bring it all together. Billable item mapping is so much more than just a technical setting. It's a strategic enabler. By giving you this flexible, scalable, and automated backbone for your entire billing process, it opens up a world of new possibilities. So the real question isn't just how does it work? It's what new innovative business model could this powerful bridge unlock for you?